Hey guys, Igor here, and I'm back once again with another video. Today I've got something a little bit different for you, and I hope it benefits you in some way or another. So I was browsing the App Store one day when I stumbled upon this one app. It was called Animation and Drawing by Doing. Doing is the company that created it, and I think it was, let's see here, what is the single price? Yeah, it's about a $3 app, and what I was interested in is the frame by frame. I know that the iPad doesn't have very good applications for animating. It's kind of a niche market, but let's go into the app and let's take a look, and I'll give you kind of a brief impression of it. Not technically a review. I don't know all the ins and outs of the app, but here we go, and I'll show you some of the stuff that I've done, that I've played around with. So opening up my first animation, I did this blob thingy, and here you'll see me scrolling through the frames fairly quickly, but it's a looped animation, so the end animation, the end frame matches the beginning frame. If not identically, then very, very closely. So each frame I actually drew over and over, and it's 51 frames. The app also has the composite building, so up top you can see it has compositions and drawings. I only use the drawings because that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in trying to push my artistic ability and learn frame by frame animation and figure out how forms work and how something would move and all that good stuff. So let's go on into our second animation, and this is still early in the app without understanding much of the different tools. As you can see, it's this another blob thingy. They're easy to draw. I'm not a good animator, so by no means, judge me too harshly on this. But if you do, then whatever. I can't help it. So yeah, this thing stands up, and then it has a little stretch back, sneeze, leans forward, then gets sleepy again, and then falls back asleep. It has that little jiggly repress. And then here we go again. And in the beginning you saw that white border. That was me trying to set up a background, but later on I figured out that's not how it works. So the third animation, and we're starting with a green screen here, and this is where things got interesting because I posted this video on my Instagram. I haven't colorized the animation, but the idea is you can import photos by hitting the three little buttons up top and then choosing plus, on one of those, opening up your photo roll, and you import a photo, and this is what it'll look like. So the photo, keep in mind, I didn't understand this at first, it does not show up in the video when you export it. This is like really vital. I thought I was like, oh cool, I can keep the photo on the bottom layer, because yes, the app does in fact have layers, and then I'll draw over the top of it, and then when I export it, bam, the photo will be there. But no, that is not how it works. When you export it, the way that I got around it is I exported the background as a green screen, and then I removed the green screen via post-processing, just like you would in any video application. In my case, it was the iMovies. So what do I have here? So looking through the animation, I drew this worm, and he would scurry along the little rocks that I took a picture of when I was at the beach. And he keeps going, looking around kind of. You see him like trying to push forward so that he gets there faster. Then he stops, starts inflating, pops, and then as you see his debris kind of wears away. I could have left it there, but I just didn't want the focal point to be the debris. And then you have this butterfly or a moth or a flying creature that pops out, this little insect, and then it flaps its wings like a bird, not like a butterfly at all, and then there you go, and it's gone. So that was the animation. To export it, you have these little menus up top, and you can see I changed my background color to this green green screen color. Now, a quick thing that I must mention, in these properties, these drawing properties menu that you see, it's written up top, you can change the title of your animation, you can give it tags to, I guess if you're going to have a bunch in your gallery, you can find it easier. The aspect ratio changes here, but I'm not going to mess around with that because this animation was done. I'll show you the aspect ratio on the next one. and you can also change the frames per second. And this is really important for getting super smooth drawings, but keep in mind, if you go up to 30 frames, you're doing 30 drawings for a single second, and it's super time consuming. This right here was 148 frames, so I actually went in and drew this little thing 148 times, yes. And it's a simple drawing, but what takes a long time is to figure out the positioning, the timing, all that little stuff that goes into making an animation look believable. So the next animation, and this one is still a work in progress, I'll even work on a couple frames to show you guys what I mean, is this one right here. And as you can see right off the bat, it's got a border, and this border comes from hitting the drawing properties tab and choosing an aspect ratio. I went with 16 by 9. I think this is fine. It's like most monitor screens, I hope. We'll see. If anything, you know, maybe I can do some more post-processing. But this is important because I had a lot of issues when exporting my old video and importing it into a movie that already had the image that I first used as a reference point. So like I said, you can't export the video file with the photos that you imported, so you have to use your video processing software to first start with the image and then overlay the video on top of it, if that makes sense. I know I'm talking a little bit quick and it's a whole bunch of stuff to take in, but yeah, basically that's what I did. If there's enough requests, you know, maybe I'll make a full video on exporting. Maybe I'll do one for this drawing. I don't know yet. So what do we have here? So we have this little drawing. Let's also check out, there's a editor settings tab, and you can change some sort of snapping stuff, grid sizes. The ghost frames or onion skinning is right down here, so you can change how much frames you want to see ahead of the frame that you're currently on and how much you want to see behind. It's a good idea to keep +1, -1, especially when doing in-betweens. If it's a very subtle animation, a very subtle thing of movement, then you probably want to go ahead and bump that up. But I'm going to leave it at +1, -1. That's what I've been working on. So far, if you look at the bottom left, it says 1 frame of 69. So there's 69 drawings. But you might also think like, oh, okay, you know, this isn't as even complex as the butterfly. But I'm drawing a way more complicated unit thing that I need to animate. There's more movement going on. And if we look at the little layers tab right now, I have 2 other layers, but when I get to the frame that has those layers, you'll see why I even have them in the first place. I guess if I'm doing frame by frame, I basically don't need them if I redraw it over and over. But here we go. So I have this little space commando dude that I have created, this little like world universe, and I'm planning on doing animations of them. So here you see slowly the zoom begins, and as you can see already the proportions are off, and this is something that you definitely want to work on. But because the frame goes so fast, when I play the full thing for you, you will notice that it's not as noticeable. I mean, yeah, sure, to some degree, but you could see the left hand also kind of shrinks here, and it's these things that make me feel like, you know, oh, okay, I kind of suck at animation. But it's a ton of fun, and I definitely recommend for any artist to try it out. So first we have a quick zoom, and then it pans over and zooms in on his hand. His fingers poke out, so he's reaching for this object here, and then he quickly swipes, and the swiping animation leads to a different camera view. And as you can see, the character on the left, it kind of has this like melting effect, and it focuses him back into view, and now he's holding a weapon. That's what the object was. So then he goes up, he pulls back on the charging handle, it releases. As soon as that's done, you get another melting effect, and as it slides over, it's now him at an angle. And then there you go. See, this is as far as I got. The next frame, these frames right here are keyframes. So they're what you want they're kind of like the story elements, the really important things, like, okay, this scene now sets up this view, and the in-between that I need to work out is go from here to here. And it's a lot easier to do that when you have these frames set up. So a few in-betweens that I have. So looking at these two frames right here, as you can see, these are not keyframes, only the first one is. This one is, I guess, the beginning of an in-between, but I need to divide them a little bit more to make things easier for myself. So what's happening in this frame? As it zooms out, you see the inside of what is going to be a spaceship that's flying, and then there's another dude just standing there. And then we go further down. This scene right here, it's hard to see right now because of the scene before and scene after in the way. Because they're in the way, what I'm going to do is open up the editor tab and remove the before and after scene so that we get a clearer look. What's happening here is that the space dude jumped out and he's mid-flight, and the camera is one thing that you really have to think about when animating. I'm sure if any of you guys that are watching that already know animation and are looking for software know this better than I do, but the camera, if the character's in the same place, that means the camera hasn't really shifted. It's focusing on the character. It's tracking him. So as the background moves, the character stays in essentially the same place. He'll still move based on, what's going on. Is he running, jumping, falling? In this case, he jumped out and he's in free fall straight down. And the next frame, he lands. Again, the camera tracking is basically in the same area. And he'll land. He'll have a little, explosion impact, whatever, from falling so fast. He's a space dude, so he doesn't take fall damage. And then you see him take off and start running. And that's where I sort of left off, but this frame the drawing will keep going. So let's check out a little bit of frame by frame drawing, and I'll talk about how it works and why I actually really enjoy this app as opposed to some other drawing ones that I've tried. So right off the bat, let's start with this frame. I'm going to fill in a couple in-betweens. And these are going to be really hard, so I'm not going to spend too much time because the walking cycle is one of the most... It's not a beginner thing. It is a beginner thing, but I don't know. You have to practice it a lot to get good at it. So at the bottom we have this plus. If I tap the plus, it's next to the garbage can and the two squares with the plus in the middle. If I tap it, it creates a completely new frame. Let's go ahead and open up the editor settings and turn on the before and after frames. Now, one thing that I should probably mention is I'm doing this on the iPad Pro. Obviously, I gave my old iPad to my cousin who came from Russia. But the point is, I don't know if it works for the older iPads. I don't know. I'm sure you can use your finger to draw, but I use the pencil. I like it. It's comfortable. I don't know. It's okay. So I'm just letting you know that's what I use. And as far as all the other stuff, I haven't really played around with it too much, so I don't know. So I created a new layer. Let's say that we want to duplicate the layer. I can do that. So say I wanted to create a pause here. As you can see now, there's 10 layers or so. The guy stands in one place. The thing is, if my whole animation style thus far was redrawing the same exact thing over and over, like each frame being a fresh new drawing, this would look really out of place. Imagine, even in stationary moments, he moves around a lot, like right here. You see all the strokes as they change, even though he's standing on one spot. This would look super static. It would look like the video froze or something. So what I would recommend is you either create a lot of copies, erase, and draw an almost identical thing, just because the minor differences will give it a little bit of movement, even though it's a static image. But yeah, or you do this technique where you duplicate a lot and you only redraw parts that are moving. So that's completely up to you. I recommend, because you're on the iPad, it's not as comfortable as Flash or Adobe Animate to redraw a new frame. It's going to give you practice to draw, and it's going to just make you more skilled. You're drawing the same thing over. Yes, it's a little bit, I guess, boring if you want to look at it that way, but you can use strokes and lines to convey movement, and it gives the drawing more life, even though it gives it a rougher look. I just like it personally. So we have this pause. I'll keep it in just to show you guys what it looks like. Up top, we can hit the play button. It's going to render the drawing, and it's going to play for us. As you can see, it's very unimpressive for the amount of work that I actually spent doing it. And as you can see, the guy, when he stops in one spot, that's our static frame. You can see that, you know, the movement is suddenly a little bit weird. So we can tap, hit the done button, and now we're back in. So let's erase some of these. I don't like this. This isn't my style. The frames are numbered on the bottom. Not the one that you are currently on, but the ones that are near you. So I'm going to go to the front frame and erase it. Now I'm going to create a completely new frame. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but now we have the layers tab is no longer completely empty. You can see that on the layer right below our main character is the secondary dude, and then on the layer before that is our background. And I decided to create these separate layers so I can keep these assets separate from one another, and when I'm going in and coloring, say, the main character, if I lock the other layers, they won't be affected. So this is something, this is something to plan ahead for. Just keep in mind, if you're starting off basic, I recommend no color, just black drawing with a green background, which it only turns green on export, that you can later put on a white background or something, and it'll, well, technically you can just export it onto a white background to begin with, but if you're trying to put it over an image. Point is, that's what I've got going on there. Let's go back. We're still on our main character layer. Let's create a completely new layer, and I copied that one over. We actually already created a new layer, and I have my pen selected, and for this drawing I've kept a brush size of 3.0, normal brush mode, no drawing inside. You could use the pressure sensitivity, and as you can see, it actually does some sort of sensitivity related stuff, but to keep consistent lines, I'm not going to do that. The pressure sensitivity thing is pretty fun to use. I have not played around with the pen tool or the pencil tool much at all. Again, I'm mostly doing this for the drawing stuff itself. So here we're gonna do another walk cycle thing. So I'm gonna draw a circle. Now the cool thing is you have these before and after frames to look at, and yeah, prepare yourself to be undoing a lot, because that's what happens. Sometimes, you know, you can't get the stroke perfect. You try to get super steady and you're going in, and then boop, your arm moves a little bit and then the whole stroke is screwed up. And it's easier to have one big long stroke instead of you know, a bunch of tiny ones that are all out of place and leave kind of messed up looking shapes. So we're gonna get his mask, fill in the mask by switching to the bucket tool, go back to our little drawing, and draw in, let's say, a hand. I'm going to keep this somewhat quick and simple, just because the video will be way too long if I'm honestly, animations just take a crazy amount of time, and you know, to further kind of prove that point is none of these are even colored, and coloring and cleaning up the lines is you're basically redoing the whole animation again but slower. So right now he just looks like he kind of crapped himself. So I'm going to move this leg back. As the second leg starts coming forward, we're going to lift it off the ground. So the back leg is going to stay. The gun does not move too much. The hands are still in place holding it. The background and all that will not. As you can see, we can just kind of move with our finger between the left and right frame. The helmet and all that changes shape just because you need to draw really precisely for it not to. So, you know, I'm not spending a crazy amount of time here on it. And then I'm going to create a completely new layer. Try to follow the helmet on the old one as close as possible. You can have head bobbing up and down as you walk. When you have a walk cycle, typically, I forget which part, but at a certain point you have your head traveling up, and then at a different point in the step you have it traveling downwards. So all of that, you should, if you're interested in learning how to animate, you should look online. this is just to show people who already have dabbled into animations or just straight up want to, get an app that might work for them. I think this thing's only like $3. I would say this is a great find. I'm honestly really happy, and I can't wait to create some, some like full on, I don't even want to say impressive, but full on animations that, hopefully people will like. So yeah, we have a pretty. So here, if we look here, it looks like we need an in-between. Now, to create an in-between, same process. You just hit the plus sign to create a completely new frame. You go in, and the cool thing about in-betweens is, even if you're not good at animating, a lot of times having the ability to draw an arm that's punching, so an arm that hit the object, and an arm that's bracing for the impact, the in-between just literally fills in the spaces in between. And from that point on, all you have to worry about is the timing. The punch accelerates so that more frames will start off at the initial release of the punch. So you'll have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, like this. It'll go like this. So you have the initial punch right here, and then the impact will be here. So as you brace your arm, it'll be like frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, because your fist is traveling slowly, and then it goes quick, and then bam. And that's just timing is something that you'll learn about if you learn from any animator, I guess. That's not what I'm going to try to teach you, because that's something I'm learning myself still. But the point is, in-betweens are great. It makes drawing, like, the concept is a lot easier to grasp. Here we have step 1 of the leg, and this is step 2. So to fill in the blanks, all we do is we draw the halfway point. So the leg would be moving over. The other lines don't change. And then the back leg is in frame 1, it's right there, and in frame 2, it's right there. So we'll draw it right behind this leg. So yeah, see, if you look now, it's a lot more smooth. But keep in mind, this is only 3 frames, so it's not even like a quarter of a second. This is super quick. We need to slow it down without changing the frames per second over here. You need to add more frames, and you add more frames by having more and more subtle movements. If we look over here, this guy reaching up, I can probably add a frame right here before he cocks back. I might even do that right now. Why not, right? So we're gonna add a frame. I'm gonna try to keep a steady hand all the way through. Make sure that the helmet doesn't get all weird shaped. And it's a good idea to, if you see 2 lines kind of go away from one another, separate away from one another, and you're doing an in-between frame, just draw the line, the new stroke right in the middle of those 2, and it won't affect the size shift too much if you're drawing it in this particular style. That's what I have learned and kind of taught myself. But it's sort of common sense too. A lot of things that I'm pointing out, you're probably like, oh no duh, Igor, and I'm sorry. Again, I'm just trying to show you guys a cool new little app that I've found. Right here, since the second frame right here is already him cocking it back, what I'm trying to do is draw in the initial holding of the charging handle. So again, following very closely to those lines. It almost sort of feels like tracing, but what are you gonna do? you are tracing. A frame is not cheating. We have some Instagram pop-ups. All right. Draw the hand in here. Charging handle, you can't see the little lever. We've got some stuff back here. What are these lines? It's the handle of the gun. So I do want to add these in. And that means I get to remove this line, right? It technically shouldn't be there. Let's see. Yeah. I'll keep a part of that line showing. So now we need to fill in this area and that area and add maybe a couple of imperfections to help sell movement or show a little bit of texture. It just depends on how detailed you want to make your drawing. Obviously, you know, if I spent months on this thing, I could probably make it look really sick, but I work, so I don't have that luxury. And, you know, spending that much time on something and then not having it make you any money, it's like you're gonna starve and live on the street. So the point is, that's sort of how the whole drawing process works. As you can see, some of the edges on the bottom of the gun I didn't even bother drawing, because guess what? They're out of frame. It's a good idea to sometimes draw them so that you can remember the shape of whatever it is you're working on. But yeah, here's the, you know, basic idea. If you play and fast forward, the walking animation you'll see is so super short. But that's just because I need to add a ton of frames. Probably like another good, maybe, I don't know, 20, 25 frames into that scene alone to give him a smooth walking animation as he exits the ship. Anyways, guys, to export, let's finally do that. Export, you hit that little thing, share, you pick the video H.264 file, and there you go. It plays it back, but yeah, that'll take it over to your camera roll, and you'll have it, and you can, you know, save that file to your computer and do whatever you want with it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, this is animation and drawing by Doink. Pretty sick app. Check it out. So far, I like it a lot, and it's a ton of fun to mess around with. So hopefully it inspires you to create something cool. If you like stuff like this, if you want to see some more reviews of other drawing applications, leave me a like, a comment. All that stuff is super appreciated. And have an awesome day.